Hi YouTube. Today I'm going to be talking about sexuality and how I conceptualise it. So it's been pretty obvious to me for a long time that the binary model of sexuality, which is that there's such a thing as heterosexual and homosexual and nothing else, doesn't tell the whole story by quite a long way. For quite a lot of people, there's just two sexualities. Either you're straight or you're gay. For people who don't just find men attractive or women attractive, that isn't enough. From there, you can develop it a bit further by saying, well, most people are either attracted to men or to women. Some people are attracted to both, so they're bisexual. And that's a tiny step in the right direction, but it's still not really, I don't think it really tells the whole story. So some of you will have heard of Alfred Kinsey. He was a scientist in the 1960s, and he came up with a model of sexuality that assigns you a number from 0 to 6. I think 0 is exclusively homosexual and 6 is exclusively heterosexual, which is a bit better than the two sexualities model or the three sexualities model, in that it's got 7 available ones, so that if someone wanted to say a bit more than I'm bisexual, give them a bit more information than I'm bisexual, they could say, well, I'm a Kinsey 4, and that's what some people do. It's still pretty one-dimensional, right? It's just a line. I think it's pretty clear that people have a whole range of capabilities when it comes to how you feel about other people. So when it comes to friendship, some people mostly have friends who are men, and some people will mostly have friends who are women. So I think that there's one dimension that you need to think about when it comes to attraction to other people, which is non-sexual and non-romantic. I think that there's romantic attraction as well, so your ability to form a romantic relationship, fall in love, that kind of thing. That's another capability that people have when it comes to attachments to other people. And then as well, there's the kind of purely sexual lust kind of based one. And I think that you can probably have, I've probably missed out forms of relationship, but the ones that I thought about the most is these 3. And I think you can probably have relationships that are made up of any combination of those. Like, some people have a friend who they have sex with, and some people have friends who they're in love with but don't want to have sex with, that kind of thing. So that's the first component, I guess, of my model, is that there are different kinds of attraction. The second component, I think, is a non-binary model of gender and sex. So by gender, I mean how a person identifies themselves in respect to, I guess, like masculinity and femininity and androgyny and that kind of thing. So, for example, you could get a whole bunch of men who have widely differing kind of gender identities. They might all identify as men, but some would be like butch men or masculine men, and some might be less butch men, and some might be androgynous men. So in addition to people's identity and behaviour and things, there's what kind of physique someone has, which definitely has an effect on attraction for a lot of people. You can have someone whose body is more androgynous or more clearly feminine or masculine, and that can affect attraction. And as well, I guess I lump these all together, but that's probably because I'm not monosexual, and so they feel like similar kind of things to me to do with body shape. So sex organs and secondary sexual characteristics kind of go in the same box for me as, I don't know, whether you've got wide or narrow hips, or whether you're very muscular in your physique, whether you remove body hair, that kind of thing, which is seen as being gendered, and but aren't things that you would only apply to men or to women. So there's a lot of factors that make up what someone's sexuality is, and I think for each of the things that I've talked about, then I'd probably have to draw like a graph where, so say over here is 100% masculine and over here is 100% feminine, and let's say we're talking about physique, then it's not just a question of I'm attracted to people over here, or I'm attracted to people here or here or here. I think it's more like a graph, so like a two-dimensional representation of sexuality instead of the one-dimensional ones that I was mentioning before. So for a straight person, I don't know, it might kind of go like this, or like this, or like that, where it's only a very narrow kind of thing, narrow proportion of the wide range of available options when it comes to that particular attribute and genderedness. And then, so the y-axis is how interested you are, how important that kind of attribute is to you, and I guess how important that is. But then there's not just that one. It's not just for that one attribute. It's also for the different kinds of attraction. So it might be that when it comes to friends, you're completely not bothered about gender or gender presentation or whatever, but you do love having friends and you have a lot of friends, and so your graph would kind of be like this. Or it might be that you find the whole macho culture really off-putting and you don't really want to engage in that, and so that your friends are mostly men towards a more feminine end of the spectrum and women, so you'd have more of a like this. And then with sexual attraction as well, and with love. So I guess mine is more of a three-dimensional model, really, or maybe it's multiple two-dimensional models stacked on top of each other, where your sexuality isn't just made up of, do you fancy men or do you fancy women? It's more like, how much do you fancy men? How much do you fancy women? What kinds of men and women do you fancy? And as well, it leaves room for asexuality and people who are very sexual. Like, it leaves room for distinction between those. So, some people aren't very sexual, and some people are very sexual, and like the label heterosexual or Kinsey 4 or whatever, it doesn't really allow for how sexual you are, or how outgoing and how interested in having friendships you are, or how much love that you have to offer to relationships, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's the current kind of way that I think about sexuality and stuff. I would be well interested to hear what other people think, and how other people think about sexuality in terms of, who you're attracted to and how much you're attracted to them, and in what kinds of ways you're attracted to different people. Yeah, so hopefully I get some responses. Bye!